Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about two things: how to treat people more fairly by using the term African instead of human, not for a political gimmick. It's nothing to do with, pronouns or whatever. I'm not recommending that people legislate that they have to use the word African instead of human, but I am saying that you should consider what I have to say here. It's very important. Also, this video is about how to treat Jewish people fairly and what's going on in regards to that, and what is better for the Jews. What's going on right now is not good for the Jews. The trajectory is not good. The problem solution game is not good. So let's get into this. So I'm going to start by talking about Bob Marley, right? Like me, he was a mulatto person. He was part white, part black, part Jewish probably as well. And in one of his songs, it's called "So Much Trouble in the World," he says that people are blasting off on a spaceship where they're miles from reality, and they have no care for you, no care for me. So they're miles from reality. They're not living in reality. And as a result, they don't care. That's why we have all these economies that kill. The Pope said that there's an economy, a global economy really, that kills. So the domino effect of the economy is killing people. So let's talk about this. So why should we use the term Africans instead of humans or people? Well, we need to escape the oppressive white colonial box. You'll see that I'm right very soon here. Point number one. A key reason using the term human is not good enough is that we live in a very whitewashed system where people disassociate to varying degrees. Again, they disassociate to varying degrees as a result of the whitewashed system. And child molesters take advantage of them. Again, a key reason using the term human is not good enough is that we live in a very whitewashed system where people disassociate to varying degrees as a result, and child molesters take advantage of them and their children. Right? They fool them into letting them watch their children, then they molest their children, they fool their children, right? They take advantage of people in various ways. Sometimes they even get money for them on top of that. Believe it or not, this is not even the number one issue in regards to this problem. As horrible as that is, that's not even the number one issue. We could separate that from everything else. That's not the number one issue. The number one issue is that it's wrong and that people are disassociating, kids are being killed, they're starving to death, lots of problems, right? The number one reason why the term human is not good enough is because when we use that term, it is doing the devil's work. It is doing the wrong thing. You'll see that I'm right. Point number two. In America, the language, education, cartoons, politicians, clothing, the social norms, the explanations of evolution, the psychology, and more are all basically white and whitewashed. This confuses people. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't speak English. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when you combine all of these things together, it is very white and whitewashed. When we think about the evolutionary charts or diagrams or drawings that we see, you'll see very primitive early humans. Sometimes they look like just, after like monkeys or something, you see very primitive early humans, and then when you get to the end, it's a white person. When you couple that with the cartoons for the developing minds of children, you see, historically you had Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, okay, and you had Aladdin, where these people are white. It's not about a story that takes place in India. Now, in recent years, they've added other cartoons, but they're very white and Jewish and LGBT washed cartoons. They're the white and Jewish and LGBT version of those races. Okay, it's like finding the most whitewashed black person and saying that that's an African in its purest form, right? That's outrageous, right? And so that contributes to this idea that the word human actually means, when it doesn't, right? White, Jewish, and LGBT. Again, they're trying to brainwash you with the other things that connect to the word human and how the word human is used. Okay, they're trying to brainwash you with those things to get you to associate the idea of being human with being white, Jewish, LGBT. So think about colonists with wigs who say, quote unquote, that they have civilized the land and that they want you to get rid of what they describe as indigenous so-called nonsense. Okay, I say it that way so YouTube doesn't take me out of context here and what have you. So that's very key that people understand it. Point number three. The idea that we all come from Africa and that it is our universal point of reference is being lost. Okay, so we all come from Africa. That's our universal point of reference. We didn't all start off looking like George Bush or something in Northern Europe. We started off in Africa, not in Israel, not in Northern Europe. Even the people who wrote the Bible wrote it in a way that's false. Even when we look at these new narratives of early humanoids being discovered in Asia, okay, the Homo sapiens spread out from Africa. There is an abundance of evidence there. If they found some skulls of Homo sapiens in America or Asia or anywhere else, that doesn't change the abundance of evidence that the main point of reference is in Africa, and people spread out from there, and there was back migrations and so on and so forth. That is the main central point for humanity. If you're Native American, for example, and you're, let's say, Lakota, that is your central point, right? That land, after being African, in terms of being Native American, that's your central point there, right? Now, if some people went to other places and they started mixing and started looking differently and they started denying that central point, that would be wrong and it would confuse things, right? So it is with being African. So the term African is key here. So when we have to consider what happens when I say, hey, we're all Africans, and I start insisting on that, okay? And some racist white guy, you make it seem like we all like Bushmen or something. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, he's an idiot. So there's some consequences of saying that. But the consequences are nowhere near as bad as if I say we're all humans, because immediately you start thinking in a way that reflects colonial brainwashing. Same with the term people. For example, if George Bush got on TV and said, hey, we're all people here in America trying to make our way, what do you think of immediately? Do you not think of white and whitewashed people? And that anyone who's not like that is off the central point that is being used. It's that simple. And so when we look at what is good for, say, Jewish people, is it good for them to confuse themselves by using the word human to reinforce their religious narrative? Now, what's happening on this trajectory? Some of you might say, yeah, because they like to say that they're chosen. Would you want your child to say he's chosen then be assaulted? Would you want your child to say he's chosen, have no one believe him, and have people pay him lip service? Would you want your child to say he's chosen while the vast majority of people have a low opinion of him? Okay, and him and his friends are assaulted at times, okay, and that people merely pay him lip service. That's stupid. You want your child to be some kind of knucklehead with a pitchfork saying, say we're chosen, knowing that he's going to be stigmatized for that activity in reality. No, with people saying, yeah, whatever he says, and saying that they just want people to throw him a bone and they'll agree with him. That's stupid. So now when we look at Jewish people, how many of them look confused and dazed? Okay, when we look at Generation Z, how many of them look confused and dazed? Could it be that because of white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy, Generation Z, including white, Jew, and LGBT people, are out of touch? When they ask themselves, what is it? What does it mean? What should I do? When they first ask themselves, what is it? They get the wrong answer. They don't even pass that point. So when it comes to what does it mean, they're just already confused. Now they're more confused. When it comes to what should they do, they have no clue, and they do something stupid, and they have a Generation Z stare, and they look confused. They look like they're under mind control. And for the most part, they are. That's a story for another day. It's bad for them. It's bad for the Jewish youth. It's bad for the Gentile youth. What have you. There's no other way to look at it. That is the reality of the situation. So what straightens it out? Well, what straightens it out is what straightens the brain. We're out where it has to be oriented to reality. The brain isn't oriented to reality. The brain suffers. Your sex life suffers. Your human interactions suffer. Your career suffers. Your family life suffers. You name it. Your life suffers. So you have to be oriented to reality, the proper point of reference. It's a Royal African Falcon martial art order. And then, and then it's everyone else. But we all come from Africa, which means the essential point that we all have in common, that's who we are, okay, is that we're Africans. Hundreds of thousands of years, then mankind spread out. Central point, central orientation, African, which means your central alpha, the universal alpha, is going to be somebody who fits a universal scale. Okay? I almost want to say African scale, but that confuses it. A universal scale in terms of character, in terms of martial arts, right? Martial is marital scrambled, Christ the bridegroom, what have you. In terms of being virtue, verb means man for a reason, virtue. Okay, it has a certain principles intact: righteousness, justice, focus, determination, dedication, heart, love, and so on and so forth, right? Discipline, insight, sense. So as they're trying to reinvent themselves, they're denying that the ideal man is the top martial artist ever possible, and there's no one who's going to one-up me in the future because of tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains. So when they say, they start looking like Ren and Stimpy or something. They start looking like the Tasmanian devil of the cartoon, right? They start looking like some scatterbrained idiot. Dumb and Dumber. Humpty, Tweedledee, Tweedledum. Humpty Dumpty. They're like, I don't want him to look up to you. I can't get my thoughts together. I'm a dumbass and I want my kid to be the same. That's what they're saying by their actions. It's a small price to pay to have your kids look up to the most righteous person ever when you're somebody who sees that as a price to pay, as opposed to a huge price to pay, bringing down the whole world, including people, including your family and all other people. Thank you.